Hello, everyone. So we are here in this live. Are you all able to hear me? Okay. Let's wait for some audience to join so that they can confirm they can hear us. Hello. Well, I think people are here. If you are able to hear me and you are able to see me, just comment something so that I can know. Hello, everyone. Okay, I'm waiting for some comments. All right. Vortex commented yes. Thank you so much, Vortex, for confirming it. Okay. So we'll be beginning the session just after a minute. Till then, you all can tell me that this session that we are taking is about the hackathon. How is the hackathon going on? I can also see technical world. Hello, technical world. Okay. We'll be beginning soon. Uh, okay. Hello. All right. So I think we should begin. So again, greetings from my side. I'm Devashish Khare. I'm mentor here at GFG. And as you all already know, GFG is conducting one-of-a-kind national level hackathon collaborating with Google and AMD. And that hackathon is currently in its first phase, and geeks from all around the world are competing at the institute level. And we are here with one more session in our Solving for India Hackathon series. As you already know, like in this series, we are continuously helping you guys with these innovative, informative ideas, right? And this time again, we are here with Mr. Sanjeev Gopinath, and you'll be pleased to know that he holds a robust experience of 12 years in this software industry. Okay, and he has worked with IBM, Microsoft, and Oracle, and currently he is a cloud solution architect at Google. And today he'd be discussing how we can build a fintech on Google Cloud. So let's welcome Sanjeev, sir. Sir, you may please take over the dais and continue with our audience. So, hello, Sanjeev, sir. Are you able to
Okay.
hear me now?
Hi. Hi. Am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are, sir. You may please
Okay.
continue.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Devashish, for that quick introduction. Just if I could again take the opportunity to introduce
Oh,
myself and set the context. Right. My name is Sanjeev Gopinath, and I'm a cloud solutions architect at Google. My charter is to help the fintechs in India being able to scale on Google Cloud. So therefore, we solve a lot of problems and challenges for them. This could be as good as just looking at your technology stack and seeing if we can have that scale to 1 billion Indians. Or it could also be around, hey, can we use AI and ML in order to do some advanced, innovative use cases that your customers would love, right? So those are some of the problem statements that I focus on day in and day out, and I work with a lot of unicorns, sunicorns, and minicons in this space. Today I am really excited here because we are talking to the students. I do see that a lot of the startups and the most innovative startups are emerging from uh, the students themselves, and therefore I'm excited to uh, take this story to all of you. Today, what we will do is I will give you an overview of how we look at the fintechs in India. We will see what sort of opportunities that are there, what are the different fintechs that everyone is building today. And post that, we will also get into what are the specific challenges that you will have as a technology person or as a CTO when you are building a fintech. Okay. And the other thing that we will do is we will also take specific problems, and we will see how we can apply our engineering principles in order to solve those problems, right? So that is that's what I have in the agenda today. Cool. So with that, let me start presenting my screen. So let me know once you're able to see it. All right. I can see that it has come up. Devashish, if you can give me a thumbs up
All
if
right.
you
Yes,
are
I
able
can
to
see
see.
that too, and I hope all of our audience are able to see that too. You can write me in the chats. People, are you able to see the screen? Okay, I've got confirmation from Piyush. It is visible. You
Great.
can continue.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you so much, Piyush, Technical World, for the confirmations. So let's start. See, when we talk about fintechs, we are all, of course, technology folks. We want to build technology. The passion that we have is around building applications and platforms and services. But however, it is very very important to know that you need to have some level of the business side of things. You need to factor those in as well. And once you have the business ideas and everything clear is when you do start building your technical platforms and services and solutions. Today, if you see, fintechs do exist across multiple different spaces. Okay, so let me just pick up my laser pointer. So if you see, most of the fintechs today are existing across B2B fintechs and B2C fintechs. As students, you would be very familiar with B2C fintechs. For example, you have Slice, there is Grow, and there are many other, like even Jupiter, that is a neobank. So all of these are classified into B2C fintechs. Then there are a number of B2B fintechs as well. B2B fintechs are the ones that directly interface with small and medium businesses. For example, you might have heard about Lending Cart, there is UB, and if you know Razorpay, which all of you have used, Razorpay is a B2B fintech, right? Because it provides payment gateway services for other businesses. So therefore, these are the primary two classifications of fintech that typically where there are lots of problems that can be solved. But then we are seeing a number of fintechs that are emerging across a number of other spaces. For example, there is a B2B fintech that helps other fintechs with, let's say, certain distribution problems. And then we are also seeing many fintechs wanting to become technology service providers. For example, let's say that you are a B2C fintech and you want to enter into UPI payments, right? Instead of building your own technical stack, you can go and talk to a different fintech who are able to provide you the technology that is needed for the UPI switch. And let's say if you want to let's say if you want to build lending applications, then you will need something called as a loan origination system or a loan management system, and in which case you might not want to be building that entire loan management system and loan origination system by yourself. You can go to a technology service provider, and that technology service provider will provide you the entire loan platform that you can leverage, right? Similarly, there are other fintechs that are working on the regulatory tech space. For example, you might have heard about Know Your Customer, which is KYC. As soon as you are logging into any app and you create your user profile, there is a uh, there is a video KYC that is typically done, and uh, this is facilitated by a bunch of fintechs, where the B2C fintechs or the B2B fintechs, they partner with the regulatory tech, and the regulatory tech fintech, they solve the KYC challenges that these fintechs have, right? So therefore, you have the opportunity to build your fintech anywhere. It can be a B2B fintech, it can be a B2C fintech. You can be a technology service provider providing financial services technology for other fintechs, or you can also try solving challenges on the regulatory space for fintechs, right? So these are the various opportunities that you have. And of course, last but not least, uh, fintechs can be across multiple financial services space, right? Today we have a billion Indians, and for billion Indians, there is there are lots of financial services and products challenges that are out there. So therefore, you can build across any of the spaces. Lending is a popular one. You see a lot of fintechs are building lending services. Then there is payments infra. Payments infra is typically your payment gateways. Example, there is Razorpay, Cashfree, Paytm, and so on and so forth. Then there is the idea of digital payments. How can we simplify uh, payments using mobile for the billion Indians? That is a great problem statement to solve. And then, of course, you do have neobanks, wealth tech. It is typically to do with all your investments. And then there are enablers who enable across all of these. Then there are enablers who help across this entire space. Okay, so now, with given this is where the fintechs operate, in order to support the fintechs, India has built what we call as the India Stack. India Stack is a set of API layers. The API layers help you in accessing, let's say, the identity information of your users, or it could be about using UPI for doing a peer-to-peer payment. There are also other things like collections. For example, let's say you are using a lending app and you want to have the EMIs deducted regularly. So there is a collections framework that India Stack offers. Then there are things like account aggregators that make it easy for you as a fintech to be able to collect the user data in a secure way and in a manner that that takes in and factors the uh, user content, in order to ensure that if you want to make use of that data, it is available with users' permission, right? And then while you do all of this, there are also licensed government entities and financial institutions that you will typically have to partner with. For example, let's say if you're building a neobank, you cannot build a bank by yourself. You will typically have somebody like an Axis Bank or an SBI Bank or HDFC Bank that is sponsoring you, right? And you will create all your interfaces in front of those financial institutions' APIs, and you will go to the market to your business users or your direct consumer users, right? So therefore, you will be partnering with a number of government entities and financial institutions. And while doing all of this, there are also regulators for each of these different spaces. For example, if it is about lending and banking, it is typically your RBI that comes into picture. If you are building an insure tech, then it is the IRDAI that comes into picture, and so on and so forth. So you also need to understand what are the regulatory frameworks that are there while you build the solution. And then there are various industry bodies, like you might have heard about PCI DSS regulations. All of those come under the various industry bodies, industry standards, and attestations, right? So this is a quick overview of the opportunities that are out there. Let's say if you and your folks are sitting together to figure out where do we solve the problem, and um, for which customers and which segments do we want to solve the problem, I believe that this will be a good mental model for you, right? So now let's get into something deeper. I want to talk about building a fintech platform, and because Right now, as India, we have matured in building and operating really large platforms. We do have the scale, skills, and everything. So what I want to talk about is, what is it as you, as engineers, fintech engineers, will experience as you start rolling out your platforms and your startup, and how can you avoid it, and how we will use certain Google Cloud technologies in a manner that will help you ease out your problems and take your ideas to market quickly. All right. Uh, uh, so far, so good. If I can just get a few comments, some thumbs ups, please. All right. So I will continue. Uh, while you do see all of these gray boxes, this is what we will uncover today. And what are these gray boxes? We will start all the way from the beginning, right? So, the first thing first is, let's say, whenever you want to build a fintech, today it is all about building digital services, and digital services are nothing but your applications, mobile applications, or it could also be sometimes web applications, desktop applications. So everything is digital. So it is going to involve a lot of tech, and that is where this comes. And at this point, right, the fintech platform is still an idea that is sitting in co-founders' head, right? And now, let's say if you want to take this forward and build your fintech, what is the first thing that comes first? And that is not tech, it is the fin part of the fintech, right? You do not start off with a technical solution and build and then try to identify a problem that you can solve with that technical solution. That is like, the hammer and the nail problem, right? So when you have a hammer, then everything looks like a nail, and that is not how you want to solve the problem. The first is where you identify what is that financial services that I want to buy, and I want to build, and what will be the various aspects that will involve for that particular fintech, right? So let me give you a few examples here. When it comes to the business model, you have various things. For example, user acquisition, onboarding, there is underwriting and dispersal, servicing, collections. So as fintechs, we see fintechs trying to innovate across the entire value chain. This is what you call as either value chain or business model. Uh, and that involves the four or five things that have been laid out here. For example, user acquisition. Let me give you an example, right? uh, Many of you might have placed order for food through Zomato or Swiggy, and while you have selected your food, and you are about to place the order at the checkout page, you do have the option of paying through various different instruments, right? And you will see simple lazy pay shown as one of the options. So if you see, you can just select lazy pay or simple, and then make your payment really quickly. From that aspect, if you see, lazy pay and simple are directly partnering with other platforms like Zomato and Swiggy, and that becomes their user acquisition model, right? So now if you want to have such a user acquisition, then all of those are API relationships, and therefore your API needs to be a lot more stronger. um, and similarly, if you come all the way down, there is collections. How do you want to innovate in collections? Are you directly integrating with the bank accounts of all of those individual users, or are you going to make use of something like a Google Pay or a Phone Pay in order to do the collections? When are you going to call the users? How are you going to send the notifications? So there are lots of really nice use cases that one can start building across this entire value chain. And when you, as budding fintechs, when you want to start thinking about a problem, the first place where I will want you to start with is this section, right, which is your business model. First, try to understand what is the problem that you want to solve, and then start solving for it. Now, we did talk about this entire business model, and for a fintech, how does it manifest? Like I told you before, uh, it manifests in the form of an MVP with the tech, right? So, and how does the tech really come into picture? When that comes into picture, when you have a primary cloud services provider, the first things first is, as tech team, you will figure out who is going to be your primary cloud service provider. You will build your entire technical stack either using Java, Python, Node.js, Golang, and all that. And then you will roll out the set of services for the customer, right? So, and now when you have your tech stack in place, so what is the first things? Uh, so what's the next thing that you do is have your mobile application. You will have your application backends and databases. You will want to build all of these, right? And once you have your mobile app application backends, you can take all of these services to your customers, right? Like I said, for your for just give me a second. Yeah, so customers can come in various forms for a fintech. It can be typically the B2C users, or it can be B2B users in the form of enterprises. Then there are also financial institutions that sometimes become your customers. Let's say if you are a technology service provider, like I talked to you before, you will provide your solutions to financial institutions as well. So those are some key things, right? And now, like I told you before, it's not just your customers that you will partner with. You will also want to integrate with other partners, and these partners could typically be the licensed government or private entities, or they can also be the financial institutions, right? If you want to build, let's say, a neobank, you will have to partner with one of the financial institutions, be there, let's say, the UI layer. And have some sort of an API relationship going on with the banks, right? And so now, what as a fintech, what we have done here is you have your business model in place, and then using your tech stack, and your primary cloud service provider, you have built a mobile application, then you have built an application backend, then there are databases, right? And with all of these, you have taken these to your customers. You have taken it to your first set of users, first set of enterprises, and then based on that, you have talked to a bunch of partners, such as the government entities or the financial institutions. You have talked to them, and now you do have a very viable fintech platform, right? Now, when you have a viable fintech platform, what is the next thing that you will do? The next thing you will do is go to investors, right? So you go to the venture capitalists, and as venture capitalists start seeing the revenue that is coming in, they will want to fund you further in order to expand to a lot more newer customers or newer partners, right? uh, but however, uh, yeah, so typically you will have your investors coming in and funding you, and that is going to help you scale to newer set of customers and larger partners, right? uh, when we are talking about the larger partners and larger customers, they come with their own set of requirements. For example, they might tell you that, hey, I cannot use the primary cloud service provider where you are hosting your application. So therefore, I will want you to deploy the set of applications in a secondary cloud service provider or on-premises data center. And that is where, as a fintech, you will have to start thinking about, hey, now previously I was having all of the services deployed across one cloud service provider. Now, how can I deploy it across on-premises data center or the secondary cloud service provider, right? So that is when it really hits your platform. And then a lot of these larger customers and larger partners can also come back to you and say that, hey, while you are offering your fintech services as a SaaS based solution, I want to have it deployed as a single tenant with dedicated compute storage and databases for me. And then therefore that becomes a set of technical challenges that you will have to look at, right? So now when we are talking about the data residency and the data isolation issues, there are other things that you will have to factor in as well. For example, the risk, right? When it comes to risk, there is IT risk, which comes in the form of security. You will have to build your firewalls. Then there is web application firewalls for all your layer 7 protection. There are various such just give me a second. So there are various such uh, security posturing that you will have to add into your platform, right? And while you are doing all of this, there are two other players that affect the way how your platform is built, and that would be the regulators and the industry standards, right? So the regulators typically come and talk to you about, how you should run your business. Let's say what sort of an auditing and reporting that you should have. They will also talk about what are the set of processes that you will have to follow. For example, KYC is one such process, right? So that is when you will expand on your risk portfolio and talk about disaster recovery, business continuity. Then there are lots of risk management tools, fraud management tools that you will start building, right? So now with all of this, then just give me a second. Yeah. So yeah, so this becomes the so you might have just started off with a single idea, and with that idea you might have started expanding. But as you can see from from a CTO's lens, this becomes the fintech world, right? You have your users, you have your partners on one end, then you do have the regulatory standards, industry bodies. You also have investors. Then you have tech stack on one end. There is risk and financial models on the other end. So all of these become the large moving parts when you are talking about a fintech, right? So it is always good to carry this as the mental model, so that when you are building any of your fintech services or applications, you always know what's coming, and therefore you can build scalable architectures by knowing them in advance, right? So now there are a specific set of problems that we are going to tackle from here on. And what are those? For example, let's say as a fintech, if I want revenue, my revenue is going to come from my customers and partners, right? And this is something that I can call as my ecosystem. So if I want to have higher revenue, then I need to expand on my ecosystem. My ecosystem typically contains my customers, partners, and investors, right? And whatever that you're seeing on the right hand side, this entire fin, risk, and tech, all of those becomes the operations, the technology operations and the business operations that typically falls under the purview of CTO and COO. They will have to ensure that the operations are always in a scalable manner. And then there is compliance, right? Which typically is fed to you through the regulators and the industry bodies. Typically, compliance comes in a way in which it throws a spanner at your roadmap, and it affects your operational. It affects your operational scaling. So therefore, you will always have to be cognizant of what are the set of compliances and how do I keep my architecture insulated from the various compliances that I might have, right? So these are the three different moving parts. And like I said, if you want revenue, you need to scale your ecosystem, but your ecosystem will not scale because the first things that you need to do is scale your operations. While scaling the operations, we will have to keep an eye on the compliance all the time, right? So now these are going to be the set of challenges that we will go through from a bird's eye view, and we will try to solve some of those using Google Cloud solutions, right? And towards the end, I will also give you my coordinates. So therefore, if you want to ask any questions, you can always feel free to reach out to me. Okay, so with that, we will go to our first problem, which is scaling your operations, right? So when it comes to scaling the operations, I talked about something which is sometimes you will have customers coming and saying that, hey, I cannot run in your primary cloud. I already run on a different popular cloud service, so therefore I want you to deploy your services there. And sometimes they might come to you and say, I want to deploy it in on-premises or data center, right? So now let's try to see how we can take our fintech platform and apply certain engineering principles and practices in order to solve this challenge. And how will we do it? So let's say that one of the ways in which we can do is we do have our fintech platform. We can start supporting it for each and every cloud service provider. For example, let's say your primary cloud service provider is Google Cloud, so you can take your platform and build it exclusively for Google Cloud. Let's say if your customers are in AWS or Azure, you can build your fintech platform. You can do all your you can do deep integrations with each of those cloud service providers separately. And if it is going to be an on-premises or data center, again, you can make use of certain services out there, and you can create certain bespoke integrations and make your platform run exclusively on those services, right? But however, as I tell you this, you might have figured out that there is a problem. There is a big gaping hole here, because you cannot take your fintech platform and start deploying it and supporting each and every cloud service provider separately, right? Today, there are uh, there are probably three top cloud providers, but then tomorrow there might be maybe 50 of them. Is it going to be possible for you to go and support each and every cloud service provider? That is going to be difficult. And on premises or data center, it is a very open it is a very we could say that it is pretty much an open ecosystem, and therefore you do not know what you will hit there. There could be Dell servers, HP servers, or there could be sometimes private clouds. There could be hybrid clouds and so on. So it's again that is a difficult place if you want to build bespoke integrations, right? So now how do you solve for this problem? And that is where you can apply some engineering techniques like I pointed, right? So the first engineering technique that I'm going to talk about is layer of abstraction. If you I mean, even in object oriented, in OOPS concept, you would have heard about layer of abstraction. You can think of it as the same concept, just extended all the way to solve a bigger problem. So what we are saying is, in order for me to build a platform that can run across all of the different cloud service providers and on-premises data center, I am going to bring about a layer of abstraction. Okay, and through this layer of abstraction, as long as this layer of abstraction is available, my hypothesis is that my fintech platform can run across any of the different cloud service providers, right, or on-premises data center. And how does this layer of abstraction look like? Uh, so this layer of abstraction, uh, we will take opinionated stand. For example, we know that the fintech platform needs an app serving layer and a data serving layer. For app serving layer, we will standardize on portable runtimes and open source based platforms. And for data serving layer, we will standardize based on open source based data management systems, right? If we are able to take two of these opinionated stands, then we can, the theory that we have is that we can build a nice layer of abstraction that can help us take our platform and run it across any of the different cloud service providers, right? So now, how will this pan out? Now today, for hosting all my applications, I do have open source Kubernetes platform. And if you see, for all my relational database needs, I do have open source based relational databases, and I also have open source based NoSQL databases, right? I have things like Elastic, Mongo, and so on, that I can leverage today. And typically, the technical stack is only this, right? You are able to build a nice application backend through just these systems. Now, let's say if you want to deploy it on your primary cloud, and for this, let's think that your primary cloud is uh, Google Cloud Platform. Then you can make use of Google Kubernetes Engine, which is a managed services on top of the open source Kubernetes. Then you have what we call as Cloud SQL. Cloud SQL is a managed services for the open source relational databases such as MySQL and PostgreSQL. And you can also leverage some of the services such as Mongo Atlas and Redis Enterprises coming in directly from the marketplace, right? All of these provide you really good grade managed services for all of the most loved open source tools. Okay, now we did talk about how you can run it on Google Cloud, but what about the other popular cloud services? There again, you can pick up a managed Kubernetes service. There are all the popular cloud services provide managed relational database services as well, so you can pick those. Then there is Marketplace, Mongo, and Redis Enterprise that is available across some of the top cloud service providers as well, right? And therefore, you can keep the same set of stack, and you can have your fintech platform deployed across the different cloud service providers, right? Now, when it comes to the on-premises or data center, it is going to be simple. You can just go to the Kubernetes website to download Kubernetes and run it. You can download MySQL and PostgreSQL directly from the websites and run it. And again, for NoSQL, you can do a similar thing, right? Now, as you can see, we have established uniform platforms across the different layers. At the application layer, we have selected Kubernetes to be the platform. And at the relational database layer, we have selected the open source relational database management systems as the platform. And similarly, for all your NoSQL needs, you have selected open source based relational database that you can run across all of these different cloud service providers, right? So now, when you have uniform platforms across all of these cloud service providers, what happens is that the different layers, the different silos, they begin to disappear. And what your platform sees is, as long as there is Kubernetes that is available, as long as there is open source based relational database available, as long as there is open source based NoSQL database available, the underlying cloud service provider just typically looks like an infrastructure alone for you, right? For your fintech platform. So therefore, as long as you are able to take these three aspects of the stack, you can run it anywhere. You can run it on Google Cloud, you can run it on AWS, you can run it on Azure, you can run it on DigitalOcean, wherever that you want to run, right? And that's going to be the power of making use of some of these open source capabilities. All right. So now with this, as you can see, we do have a fintech platform that is ready for the global market with flexible deployment choices. You want to deploy it in on-premises, you want to deploy it in, let's say, a Kubernetes cluster that is running in Google Cloud US regions, you can do it, right? Because your fintech platform has been built with solid engineering designs and principles, which is through that layer of abstraction that I talked about. And therefore, your platform is truly ready for the global market from a technology perspective. Now, is that alone enough? We are talking about scaling the operations. Uh, Typically, let's say, let's say whenever you want to deploy your applications, now you are in a position where you can uh, now in a position where you can start building as many Kubernetes clusters as you want and deploy your applications on top of it, right? Let's say you want to expand to a newer set of customers. All that you need to do is add more and more Kubernetes clusters and associated databases and NoSQL databases. Then you can roll out your services as fast as possible, right? So there is nothing that is stopping you really. But however, one thing that I want to call out is while you can expand your fintech by just simply thinking that you can spin off a Kubernetes cluster and deploy your applications, but however, it's not going to be that simple, right? At certain point in time, you will hit certain thresholds because of which you are not able to scale your business, and that is where there are lots of higher order concepts that come into picture. For example, let's say that this is your fintech, and you do have a number of customers that are deployed across various Kubernetes clusters that are running across the different parts of the globe. In that case, what would you do? Let's say if I'm telling you that you should apply a specific update in a specific Kubernetes cluster and only for specific applications, it is going to be very difficult, right? You are until and unless you have an Excel file where you have all of this entire mapping, it is going to be difficult for you to just give me a second. So it is going to be very difficult for your site reliability engineers to be able to go and make any changes. They will have to log into each and every system, and that becomes a problem, right? You typically lack the ability to respond in an agile manner, and that will become the issue. And therefore, while you do have the scale of operations, you won't be really operating at scale, right? Now, how do you solve for this challenge? And like I talked to you before, as good engineers, we will try to think of problems, and we will try to think of solutions in the form of an abstraction layer, and we will assume that abstraction layer will give us the right set of tools and technologies in order to unlock the potential for the next scale, right? So over here again, we will say that we will get a layer of abstraction. So what does this layer of abstraction allow us to do? It allows us to see the entire Kubernetes cluster and the fleet of Kubernetes clusters that are out there in a manner that provides us a lot more visibility. For example, I know that my Kubernetes cluster now runs eKYC, cards, BNPL, payments, wallets, and reconciliation, and so on, instead of just looking at it as just Kubernetes cluster after Kubernetes cluster with some applications running. But now when I have this layer of abstraction, I'm able to get better visibility into my services, right? And I also know where are my services running. My services are running across India, Southeast Asia, Europe, and they are running across a bunch of customers, right? As you can see, customer 1 to customer X. Now, if I have to make any changes, all that I need to do is have those policy changes sent into the layer of abstraction, and that layer of abstraction, uh, we say that we will assume that layer of abstraction to pick the right set of services and apply the changes. For example, let's say that if I want to apply a policy change for all the wallet services that are running across Europe and only for the customers that are running in Europe, then I can bundle all of that in some form of a JSON or an XML as policy, and then apply it as the layer of abstraction, apply into the layer of abstraction, right? So, and that will And now the layer of abstraction will select the right set of services, right set of geographies, and right customers, and apply those changes. Okay. And this is the sort of layer of abstraction that we want in order to not just have a scale of operations, but in order for us to operate at scale, which is going 10x, right? You want to not just have 1,000 customers, but you want to have millions of customers. And when you want to have the millions of customers, you need to have that agility. And for that agility, you need to think of this layer of abstraction, right? And today, such a layer of abstraction is available, and it is called as Anthos, right? You would have come across Anthos, and sometimes you might be wondering how Anthos solves problems, and if it is an effective solution that all of you should learn. Now you know where it really helps, right? When you are thinking of going 10x, that is where solid Google Cloud technologies such as Anthos come into picture. Okay. Now, with this, what we have essentially told is that by abstracting the underlying infrastructure and platforms, we are able to scale the operations. Now, we want to scale the ecosystem, and that is going to be the next set of problems, right? So, ecosystems, what we talked about previously is that if we want to add more and more applications and customers, we have to spin up as many Kubernetes clusters as we want. And as long as we are able to spin new Kubernetes clusters, we can expand to newer customers, right? And that was the hypothesis that we had. So, for example, here we do have a lot of Kubernetes clusters, and we can have our developers build and roll out new products and features for various customers, right? So for example, you can build a shopping cart service for one customer, build a neo banking for another customer. This could again be some e-commerce integration for another customer, and so on. And you are not really restricted by the underlying technology stack anymore, right? But what happens as you keep building new and new clusters and new applications is, at certain point in time, you will hit negative unit economics. Okay, which is where expanding from just your first 10 customers to 100 customers to 1,000 customers and million customers, that becomes very difficult, right? As and when you keep adding more and more customers, you will be at a point where you will be losing a lot more money for supporting each of those customers, and therefore suddenly your startup that was going in a very good spree is now tanking, and those sort of problems will come in. Okay. And when you do get there, the integrations that you will build for each of those customers become like very slow. The animation takes you through a very it gives you a very slow transition, as you can see. So it becomes very slow, and therefore the startup becomes it becomes very difficult to expand the startup. Now, how can we solve this problem? And I want you to listen to this carefully, because as young technologists, you need to know that it's not just a fleet of services that you are building, but what you are actually building is a fleet of business capabilities, right? It's not just your Kubernetes, it's not just the application backend, it's not a Java service, it's not a Node.js service, but it is actually a business capability that you're building, right? For example, you could have you could be building a payment service, but you need to know that when you're building a payment service, what you are essentially building is, let's say, a digital payment service that supports UPI based payments for, and you can have a QR code scanner in that. And let's say when you're building an e-commerce or a POS based system, you do have some barcode scanners, and all of those are nothing but business capabilities. They are pure business capabilities, and not really Java services, or they are not really Python services. They are actually business capabilities that you're building, right? So now we did talk about fleets versus services. Now, let's say that when we have such business capabilities that we have built, how can we scale to millions and millions of customers? And the way we will do it is again through a layer of abstraction. What we will say is that using a layer of abstraction, I will be able to expand and scale to as many customers as possible with very limited set of business capabilities, right? So now, in order to do that, instead of defining the products and services right on top of these business capabilities, I'm going to move my products and services to this particular layer of abstraction, right? So for example, uh, for example, I want to build a product only using four of the services. uh, then I will only select and orchestrate from four of those services and define the product at the layer of abstraction, instead of defining the product right at the top, right? Because if I'm defining the products right at the top, it will become very difficult. I need to have, not just hundreds of developers, but I need to have thousands of developers to start integrating to each and every customer, right? And that's going to become a problem. And therefore, what we are saying is that I will define all of my products and services right at the layer of abstraction. Now, because I have all of the products and services at the layer of abstraction, I can, whenever there is a new customer that comes in, let's say that all that I need to do is orchestrate across, a bunch of services that I have, define them as products, and then integrate that to all my newer customers. So therefore, your developers can keep innovating at scale, and you can have a very thin layer of abstraction that is out here, through which you can start integrating to all of your customers, right? I hope this is a slightly higher order thinking, but I hope that you are able to follow this, because it is very important, right? Um, so now I did talk about how you are defining the products and services across these layer of abstraction, and today such layers of abstraction exists, and that is called as the API layer, right? And now, uh, therefore, you can, I mean, now that you know that all of the business services and products are defined across these API layers, APIs become the product for fintechs, right? So when you are actually building a fintech, it is not the business capabilities, but it is actually the APIs that you are exposing to your end users or end enterprises that will be making use of your services. So therefore, APIs is a very, very important strategy that you will have to think about whenever you're building your financial services. Okay. So now, the when thinking about this API layer, also there are two ways of thinking about it. The first thing is, some people think about the API layer or the API management layer as exposing set of services. Like I told you, you should not think about your Java services as services alone, because if you are just thinking about it as services, you will have more of a protective. You will want to start protecting your services, and that's the mental model that you will carry, and through which you will start thinking about the web API securities, operational metrics, SLA management, and so on. But while, however, all of these are really good things, what you need to know is that your APIs are nothing but business capabilities. They are not services, but they are business capabilities. And when you're thinking about them as business capabilities, the way you will think about them is as a mall, right? So in a mall, you have various different shops. You do have food court, you have food court, you have cinema hall, you have apparel stores, and so on. So those are, if you think about it from a deeper perspective, they are nothing but they are business capabilities, right? And as a user, you can come in to the mall and you can go to, cinema hall, and then you can do some shopping, or you can do some shopping and then go to cinema hall. And that is the sort of flexibility that you should build with your API services, right? And for you to be and when you start thinking about all of your business capabilities and exposing those business capabilities, you can start thinking about, how do I do monetization? um, you know that the users who are walking into your platform are nothing but developers, right? Developers are going to make use of your APIs. So therefore, you will start building things like developer portal, developer sandbox, API catalog, orchestration, business metrics, and so on, right? And just as you can see, thinking about it as a Java service versus, hey, I have my business capabilities, makes a lot of ton of difference. And these are the these are very simple things that, let's say, if you're able to carry on your mind, you will be able to build a successful startup, right? Sometimes, certain technologists might only think about it from a certain perspective, but then when you open your mind and think about what else is there, that can help with the make or break of your fintech platform or startup, right? And now, I did tell you that whatever services and solutions that we are picking, it also needs to be multi-cloud. And today, we do have a service that spans across all of this, and that is called as Apigee. If you have not tried it, you should give Apigee, which is an API management layer, a shot. Through Apigee, you are able to have all of your APIs defined in one place. You're able to provide the security, the SLA management, and so on, while you're also able to think of things like monetization, marketplace, analytics, and stuff, right? So here is a quick meme. Don't tell me that you are exposing just services, but what you should actually think is that you are exposing business capabilities. So whenever somebody is talking about APIs, think about business capabilities. You're not really talking about services, but you're talking about business capabilities. Okay, as long as you are able to carry that mental model in your head, the way how you will architect your services, it will automatically be in a manner that can bring in a lot more revenue. Uh, like I said, if you want to scale your ecosystem, you build a layer of abstraction over here, and in that you start defining your products. Your products are nothing but API products, and through API products, you are able to scale to not just 100 customers, but you are able to scale to thousands and thousands of customers, right? And that becomes the biggest uh, that becomes the biggest advantage for you. Okay, so now, by just summarizing on this, by abstracting your business capabilities, you are able to scale your ecosystem. And what we saw before is that by abstracting the underlying infrastructure and platforms, we were able to scale the operations, right? So now we have solved two problems. How can we solve the third problem, which is the industry standards and regulatory frameworks? That is nothing but the compliance, right? The compliance, typically it is a 5 to 6 hours workshop. It is not something that can be solved easily, but just for the sake of this particular workshop, I'm just going to give you like a bird's eye view of compliance, right? So when you are thinking about a fintechs can exist across, like I said, lending, digital payments infrastructure, wealth tech, and so on. And based on whichever problem statement that you pick, there will be a bunch of regulatory frameworks that will apply to you, and then there will be a bunch of industry standards that will apply to you. Okay, so for example, in India, if you are starting an insure tech, then IRDAI will be the one that will come in. If you're starting a wealth tech or an investment tech, SEBI is going to be the one that will come. That will be your regulator. And for payments and lending, RBI is going to be the regulator. And across the entire stack, MITI is going to be the regulator, right? Now, let's say if you are handling payments information, such as you're storing credit card information and all that, you will also have to start supporting PCI DSS. Okay, and those are certain industry standards. Maybe at the beginning you really do not want to focus on all of this, but as and when you go, like I told you before, the regulatory standards and the industry standards will start applying for you, right? And now, when you start going through all the pages and pages of documents that have been laid out by all of these regulators and industry standards, you will see that they are only talking about a few things, which is data residency, which is privacy, isolation, data classification, encryption, DDoS protection, audit trail, reporting, and so on, right? So now, if all of them are only going to talk about this, as long as you are able to engineer your uh, set of services for this, that should be good enough, right? As long as you are able to build a service that does have encryption happening in the lower tiers, you should be very well protected against the different regulatory frameworks and industry standards, right? And there is another mental model that you can leverage over here, and that is nothing but treating every bit of data the way you would want your own data to be treated. For example, whenever you're building a fintech, you are building it for your, let's say, parents. You are building it for your relatives. It could be for your friends and cousins and so on. And would it ever be okay for you to have their data compromised? Uh, Probably not, right? And you will want to, therefore, add the best of security posture that is possible. And you can only get there when you start engineering your solutions in a manner where you treat every bit of data the way you would treat your own data. And when you do that, you will have most of these security posturing covered. Okay. And that's like maybe 2 to 5 minutes overview of how you can handle compliance. Compliance, again, is going to not come right at you when you are building your application, but only post the MVP stages is where compliance will come into picture. Okay. But then there are hundreds and thousands of ways in which you can protect user data. For example, it will be worthwhile if you want to go through the container security best practices that we offer through the Google Kubernetes engine on Google Cloud. We also provide things like shielded VMs and confidential VMs, where even the data that goes from your processor to the RAM, that is encrypted, right? So uh, those are various security tools and techniques that we offer, right? So now, uh, we looked at three different things. One is if we want to scale the operations. We tried solving scaling the operations challenge. Then we solved the ecosystem scale challenge, and then we understood that through strong security and ops fundamentals, we do have compliance that we can solve for. Okay, so in summary, what I wanted to call out is that whenever you want to scale your operations, you have to abstract the infrastructure, and that is going to unlock the scaling the operations. When you abstract your business capabilities, you can start scaling your ecosystem. And when you start treating every bit of data that comes your way as if it was your own data, you can manage the compliance, right? And incidentally, these are some of the same tenets that we applied across 14 of our different products. If you see, we have very strong privacy, security fundamentals. We have strong operational capabilities and ecosystem capabilities across things like Google Search, Maps, then Gmail, YouTube, and so on. And today, because of those because of those technical calls that we have taken across the journey, we are able to now scale to beyond 1 billion users each, right? And we have 14 such products. And with Google Cloud, our mission is to help even folks like you to build your products that can scale to a billion users each, right? So that is about Google Cloud, and how we want to help you. And yeah, that is all that I had. Here is a quick QR code. You can use this, and that will take you to my LinkedIn profile. You can also hit me up on Twitter. And again, I do have my LinkedIn profile listed, right? So just do let me know how you like the session, or if you want to continue the conversation, I would be very happy to help you out. Thank you so much, folks.
Well, thank you so much, Sanjeev. This was surely very informative because I believe this is not information anyone can get lying on internet. It is
Absolutely.
your experience that you have shared, and I really believe that all the people who have been watching are building something, some of their own applications, and they surely would be getting some problems while integrating all the fintech things. And I'm sure that they can always come to you via your LinkedIn, and they can ask it, right?
Absolutely.
So I think that's it, and by far as I can see, no, just give me a second. Yeah. So, Sanjeev, thank you so much for the session, and we really hope to have another informative session soon. And for the time being, we also have our next speaker, and he'll be joining us soon. Uh, Sanjeev, if you don't mind, you can unshare this. You can stop sharing the screen now.
All right.
Thank
All
you.
right. All right. Thank you, everyone. I will log off right now, and we will continue with the next set of sessions. Thank you so much. Bye.
Okay. Sorry, guys. Sorry for that. We are back, and I hope I'm connected again. All right. So, just give me a second. Yeah. So we will be continuing with our next speaker. He's mentor from AMD. So Shilpesh, you may please take over. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Um,
Uh,
can
um,
you
Guys,
can
can
you hear
you
me?
please respond in the chats?
Can you see my slide?
Yes, it is visible now, Shilpesh.
Okay, fine. So I do not have two screens, so I'm only seeing my slides. So Devashish, in case
Sure.
there is any inputs, you need to let me know. Okay.
Sure, I will.
Okay, fine. So Thank you everyone for joining. So today I'll be talking about AMD Epic value proposition for fintech. And basically, if you remember what Sanjeev spoke about, from compliance perspective, there is a tab called as encryption, and a lot of encryption capabilities are put into works so that data can be protected. And I'll be talking about the feature again. Sanjeev described it very briefly, which is basically how we can encrypt the contents in the memory, which is available with AMD Epic CPUs. And Google Cloud actually leverages the built-in CPU functionality to encrypt the memory, to provide that encryption for the memory to protect data from any hacks. Okay, so let's move forward. So AMD Epic CPU is the engine of the compute instances. Typically, it powers most of the clouds, most of the deployments in the data center. Benefit of AMD Epic is that we provide the best scalability. I mean, we are the number one in terms of number of cores in the from the x86 CPU perspectives. uh, we have the best performance per watt kind of benchmarks where we lead. We have world records around that. We have best performance world records, be it any application, whether it is analytics, databases, you are deploying any enterprise kind of application or cloud-based application, containerized workloads or virtualized workloads. We have world records everywhere. So basically, what I would like to say is that AMD Epic has got the largest scalability in x86 CPUs. We have the best performance in x86 CPUs, and we also consume least amount of power while delivering the performance. So we have best price performance as well as best performance per watt. So everywhere, we provide those benefits to the customers. So typically, when you deploy your applications, uh, if you do not keep any tab on how you are using the services, soon your cloud bill may increase quite drastically, and you need to optimize it. So to build optimum kind of solutions, uh, I would suggest that look at AMD Epic CPUs, which are very very economically priced and provides the highest performance compared to any other similar instances. So that's how you can optimize your cost with AMD Epic. From this perspective, uh, so I already covered this. There are a lot of TCO savings, ease of migration. So you can just write any of your code on any x86 platform and it works fine on AMD because it is all x86 64-bit platform. We have best in class security features which I will talk about, and it's very very efficient. So on Google Cloud, we have three kind of instances which are available. First is N2D, which is general purpose; C2D, which is compute optimized; and T2D, which is leading price performance for your scalability kind of requirements. So you can use any of these instances. Uh, N2D and C2D provide confidential computing uh, enablement. So you can use typically the N2D, which provides better price performance and also the scalability perspective. So let's look into the security part. Uh, there is a security thing which is which AMD has innovated, which means that when you have your data in the memory, system server's memory or in the virtual machine's memory, that is called as data in use. Okay. And uh, typically when the data is residing in the memory, it is in plain text format. So If you have this fintech application, you are using, say, somebody's credit card number or somebody's bank account number, etc., etc. When you type in those things, when it is in the system's memory, if a hacker hacks into it, they will be able to read that credit card number. So how you can protect from those kind of hacks is that you can use the confidential computing. It is just a tick mark. I have a slide to show you that you can just enable this confidential computing feature in Google Cloud for the instances that you deploy on AMD, and your memory gets encrypted. Okay, that's how you can prevent any sort of hacking related attempts. So let's see how exactly AMD does it. So we have a built-in secure processor. It is like a processor within processor. So let me show you that. So this is a secure processor, which is actually a processor within a processor. It it has 128-bit encryption engine built into it. It provides encryption keys, and those there are multiple encryption keys, by the way, and for each of the VM, like here it is shown, VM1, VM2, VM3. For each of the VM, this secure processor uses a separate encryption key to encrypt the memory of that particular VM, and that's how the data is protected. So uh, even if there is a, if the, say, this VM is not encrypted, and if there is any issue, if this someone gets hacked into it, uh, even through that, no one can read the contents of this VM because this is already encrypted. Okay, so like that, there is a lot of protection provided, and even Google is not aware of these encryption keys. They do not have access to these. The encryption keys are only known to the AMD EPIC CPU, and that's how it is very secure to use it. Okay, so you can use this, and you can be very confident that your memory gets encrypted, and no one can steal data from your memory. Okay, so that's how AMD provides value addition in terms of security, versus from all the 360-degree perspective, you have a lot of services from AMD which you can use, from Google, which you can use. But from memory encryption perspective, this is the technology which you can deploy, and you can enable it on Google Cloud just by doing a tick mark. Okay, so let's look into that. So this is how it is. You can, on the Google Cloud interface, you will see a confidential VM service. It When you click on this question mark, it will tell you what it is, and to enable it, just click on this enable button, and it gets enabled. And when you enable this, this is the benchmark done by Yellow Dog. So a lot of customers have kind something like, if I enable encryption, will my application performance reduce? The answer is no. So that's what we are showing here, that to deliver the same application performance, or when you are running the particular application, when the confidential virtual machine is on, confidential VM is on, it took the similar time when the confidential VM was that enablement was off. Okay, so there is no overhead from encryption perspective. So you can use this across AMD instances, and you can protect your data with this. And at the same time, you will get a lot of performance. There is no performance degradation. You will get scalability. I mean, AMD EPIC CPUs provides the highest kind of scalability, and you can scale your applications from that perspective. So we have this website created, buildboldcloud.com. You can go to this website. It provides links to the AMD EPIC solutions, what is available on Google Cloud. Here we have a use cases defined. So on the home screen, if you either click on use cases or just scroll down, you will see the financial services use cases there, and you can download this product brief, and you can go through that to figure out exactly how customers are getting benefited, because a lot of customers are using this and they have deployed this, and they are getting benefit from security perspective, from compliance perspective. They are able to protect their data with these features, with confidential computing. So for fintech, very very important to protect the data, and also there is a compliance requirement, so you can use these things. And this buildboldcloud.com, you can go here and get additional information on that. So that's about it from my side. Thank you very much, team.
Thank you, Shilpesh. That was a really great gesture from you to tell all of these students about how the things are going to work, and I really hope that they are going to make use of it. So,
Yeah,
Shilpesh, I think in the audience, I'm going to ask if they have any query, and if there is no query, we can wind up, I think. Okay, so people, we are waiting for you. If you want to interact with Shilpesh or me, you have any queries, then you can post it. We'll be happy to take it. Okay, so I think that's it. They can reach you out in your LinkedIn as well. So if they have any further query, they can reach you there.
sure,
So
definitely.
Rupesh, I'd be ending the session now. It was great
They
having
can
you.
reach out through you also. You can reach
Sure,
me through Geek
they
for
can
Geeks
reach to me,
also.
and
You can
I'll
reach me through LinkedIn also. So
sure,
absolutely no problem. Thank you very
up
much.
to you, people. Thank you so much, Rupesh, for giving
Thank you.
out your time. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you, everyone. I hope you all have learned something new from this stream, and we are sure that you have also enjoyed, and we'll be getting to you with more of such content. Thank you so much.